the school.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Right.
So I have to be very careful. Well, so the full story. The Educate Together model started in 1978 when, well, it's probably started before that, but there was a very progressive principal teacher of a school in Dorking in the 1960s who really took the principle, took over a small Church of Ireland school which was basically dying. She told me the story that when she came up to take the job when she was about 23 as a principal teacher, that she met a parent taking the child out of the school as she arrived. And she was a cabin woman called Florrie Armstrong, and she had two very simple principles. First of all, she said that she could not see any good reason why children of different religions should not be educated together, and she could see no reason why parents should be kept outside the school gate. And she completely reformed this school. It became very, very successful. Catholic parents in the area saw the tremendous drive and dynamism of the school, and they sent their children to it. It was very successful, so they applied to get a new building, and there was a change in the Protestant, the rector in the parish, and the Minister of Education at the time, Dick Burke, and the Protestant authorities decided to put a stop to it, refused the extension, and instructed the school to limit its intake only to children of the Church of Ireland persuasion. As a result, parents who had their older children in the school, Catholic parents who had their older children in the school, couldn't send their younger children. So the Parents Teachers Association got together and they decided that they had to take a stand, and they got together to try and make happen by design what had hitherto happened by accident. So that's the origin of the Educate Together movement. That then, in 1975, 1978, the first school opened, and the school model is based on four fundamental principles. First of all, there's an absolute guarantee, legally, that the school provides equality of access and esteem to children irrespective of their social, cultural or religious backgrounds. So that all children from all backgrounds are guaranteed that their identity, whatever that identity is respected equally in every way in which the school operates. It's a simple concept of equality and rights. The second principle is that the schools are co-educational. The third principle is that the entire program of education is based on the needs of the educational needs of the children in the school, the child-centered principle. And the fourth principle is that the schools are democratically run, that we recognize that the more the family is actively involved in the process of education, in particular parents are involved in their child's education, then the greater the educational output takes place. And the idea that if you can develop learning institutions as participatory democracies, then they can access vast amounts of resources and learning opportunities which no amount of state funds can access, but also you create an atmosphere in which children, even from a very early age, take responsibility for their own learning, for their behaviour, etc., etc., etc. So those are the four principles which were established in those days. As a result of that, the school actually opened in Dunleary. There's never been a Dorky school project in Dorky, actually. It's in Glenageary now. And so over a period of time, from the 70s on, Mary O'Rourke, as Minister for Education, overruled her officials to allow the next batch of Educate Together schools to open. And there was steady progress until the 1990s. The organisation, as a national organisation, was established as a limited company in 1998. It's a charity, it's a company limited by guarantee, it's a classic not-for-profit organisation now. Now we have a national office which I run, of staff of 20. We provide school support services, we provide developmental services working with startup groups all over the country. We provide teacher education courses, both online and face-to-face, and we work with colleges of teacher education to provide more courses. We now have just recently been given sanction to open our first second-level schools, and we have a research and development unit which is, we think, going to play a major part in the radical overhaul of the entire learning experience for Irish second-level schools. Currently we have 65 primary schools around the country. There's a rough national spread, basically spread around the, where the centres of population are. And we have all types of schools, ranging from inner city schools, disadvantaged schools, to schools in other more prosperous areas. The one type of school in Ireland that we don't have is what I would call the micro-sized rural schools of less than 50 children. It's just, I mean, we tend to operate in areas of population growth rather than those very difficult infrastructural areas. So, what do we think is so important about what we're doing, and why do we think now that there is such a demand for our services? We've opened 5 schools this year in the Greater Dublin commuter belt. We're working in 50 areas around the country where we have defined demand from parents who want us to open schools, and we're quite enthusiastically going to participate in this new parental survey process. But why do I think that we are facing such an increase in demand, and why do I think it's important for what we do? The first thing is that as we're coming out of a world in which we are redefining our attitude towards identity, whether that's social, cultural or religious, there is something really important in embedding in education from the very earliest age this concept that we are sitting next to, or we're working next to, we're playing next to people of widely different cultural identities to ourselves and religious identities, and that is not a problem, it's a positive, it's an enriching of our society, and it's an enriching of our world. And that in that context, it's necessary for us to define some fundamental values. Educate Together has built, over the last 30 years, a unique ethical education curriculum. It's called the Learn Together curriculum. In Bray, I think it was called the core curriculum. The earliest, what we did between 2001 and 2004 is we condensed and distilled all the core curriculums within the existing network of schools, and we produced a national document which is now what is taught in colleges of teacher education. But this ethical education curriculum has 4 fundamental strands. It deals in depth with moral and spiritual development of a child, of a person. It deals with justice and equality as a second strand. It deals with belief systems, in other words, an engagement with the major faith, perspectives which are relevant in Ireland today. So that's the Christian, the humanist, the Islamic, the Judaist, the Buddhist, the Hindu, and increasingly now different varieties of African-based religions. So it engages with all those belief perspectives, but from an exploratory point of view, not from the point of view of teaching or didactically teaching that one or other is right, but it creates a safe environment in which children can explore honestly the religious views of the other children in the class, the other people in the community, and find out in a deep and thorough way about different religious perspectives. And then the fourth strand is ethics in the environment, in which children are expected to become socially active, to become active, to work together, to address issues in their environment, whether that's the green flag, the green flag program of environmental issues, or whether it's social issues, whether it's nowadays we have a trend in some of our Dublin schools where children look after chickens and then distribute the eggs in disadvantaged areas in their community and stuff like that. But the concept is this idea of educating for sustainable development and taking responsibility for your community and your society. This becomes a very rich environment, a rich set of values which runs through the core of the educational experience. And the beauty about it is that the school does not emphatically refuses to take responsibility to inculcate any particular religious belief. What its legal obligation is to provide a safe place in which all faiths, both theistic and non-theistic, or belief perspectives, are recognized as equal and as constructive, and if you like, that this is fundamentally a concept of human rights. A discourse around human rights. And how we address the religious rights of families in this environment is that we make the facilities of the school available, but outside the compulsory school day, for those families who wish to run faith formation classes. So classically in most of our schools, the Catholic parents would run sacramental preparation classes, but it's outside the school day. They bring their children back, and there is no question, there's no peer pressure, there's no pressure put on any family in that environment in other words, it's an opt-in facility rather than an opt-out protection. And the significance of this in today's Ireland is very important, because the whole system otherwise works on an opt-out provision. So if you're a minority in a Catholic school or a Protestant school, and you don't want your child to be in an environment in which it is basically assumed that it's the right way to think that you believe in certain things about Christianity, you have to write a letter to the principal, you have to opt out. Whereas the Educate Together model is that we guarantee a space of equality and respect and esteem, and then a parent who wishes to opt into faith formations opts into that, and that's a fundamental legal difference. But there are other very big significances to this. We also do not put, as a result of this model, we never put a teacher in a position where they must either implicitly or explicitly teach a religious faith that they may not hold themselves as a result of their contract. And so this is a liberating step for the professionals in the school as well as the families. And there's another further consequence of that, is that once you release the teacher in a school from a legal obligation to uphold and inculcate a particular world outlook, once you release that legal obligation, then you implicitly allow that teacher to step back from being an instructional figure to instead being a guide to learning. In other words, implicitly they move away from the podium here, and they step back as a guide to learning and have the freedom to explore in a way in which a school which has a legal obligation to uphold a particular religious belief has. And so there's a whole wide sense of significances to this model of education. That's essentially what I was, there's a couple of last things I was just going to say, and then we can do a bit, we can sort of dig into some of these ideas. But The interesting fact is that there's a number of very strong counterintuitive concepts or things which happen in the Educate Together movement. For example, around about 50% of the parents who send their children to Educate Together schools would describe them very staunchly describe themselves as religious or in particular as Catholic. The ERSI just released an independent survey which reinforced that conclusion just today. Secondly, the Educate Together model is increasingly being chosen by people of very devout religious views, precisely because they feel in the current phase of Irish educational development that they, as a parent, as a family,